Paul George went for the steal. He took the gamble at left. Philly at a disadvantage. He gave up the line.
George with a three-pointer. Knicks were taken out in 7 games by the Indiana Pacers at round 2. Disappointing end of their season. George thought he had some contact, but he takes it off the glass. Brunson has missed all of his three-pointers in this game. He's made only one. Here's George and Paul George. His 3rd made three.
Guys just behind you to the rim like that, you've got to be upset if you're the coach.
Paul George for 3. Got another one. George had a terrific shooting game thus far. Matches their largest lead of the game. George over Anunoby. Got it. Boy, he has been hot from three-point range. Towns with his 6th assist. Here's George for 3.
Well, it helps when you're playing every minute of every game.
What a workhorse he was. Incredible stamina. As Paul George hits another three-pointer. That's his 7th of the game.
Down to 29th in points per game. The Magic near the bottom as well offensively. Here's Embiid, good passer. George, a three-point shot. There's his first made field goal of the game. Lowry inbounds to George. Three-point shot is good. He made one late in the 2nd quarter. Toronto took Jacoby Walter, who has played in only 4 games for Toronto. Paul George rattles in a three-point shot.
He's got to be careful. He did foul out of the game on Saturday. 6 fouls in 25 minutes. Here's Paul George. Paul George with 2,270 career three-pointers.
12 free throw attempts already in this game. Only 1 so far for the 76ers.
Paul George spins in a three-pointer. 2nd three-pointer for Paul George. Sixers last year were a playoff team. 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. 47 wins. Paul George with a three-pointer. In years past, we've seen Paul George wear number 24 in Indiana, number 13 in Indiana. Now he's wearing 8. Oh my goodness, Paul George. Kelly Oubre is checked back in for the Sixers. Yabusele didn't want to shoot that 3 anymore. Paul George does, though. That's the guy who should be shooting. Brandon and Paul George have combined for 60 points. What we expected. Paul George.
Here we go.
Philadelphia's bench paid dividends here.
You mean Kyle Lowry? As Paul George finally gets one to go down from the corner, knocks down a 3.
He wanted to create that kind of feeling that the fans are on top of you.
They get the rebound, though, after the miss by Martin, and George drills a 3. He was just 4 of 14 in his first game of the season the other night. Here's Tyrese Maxey, who's yet to take a shot so far. He leads the NBA in field goal attempts from 3 and from inside the arc. George has to hoist with 1 on a timer and buries his 2nd 3.
5-point Sixers lead. PG for 3. 15 and counting in his home debut.
Here's Embiid working against man. Paul George. He does that as well as any player in the league.
Former teammates. George.
Not easy for Andre to defend that far out, too. Big guys aren't used to it, but that was well done.
Paul George steps into a trail, dribble, and connects. PG. Good fake from McCain. Shot clock at 4. At 2. PG from the wing. Count it. Good ball movement once again here. Ball, as you mentioned, Ollie, just really popping. KJ Martin knocking it out. Paul George sets his feet, fires, and hits a 3. 5 of 6 are the Sixers from beyond.
It's the team a few more tools to work with, and it's just been remarkable.
Maxey rolls it off to George. George checks the shot clock. He has 4 seconds with which to work, and he buries a 3.
Embiid going right back to him. Paul George from beyond. Paul George drills it. George to the driving kick. Reset triple from Paul George is good.
Here's a straightaway three.
Right, Colin Sexton testing that paint out. Comes up with 2 there.
Double figures for Colin. He hit 4 of 8 shots in the first half.
Philadelphia trying to put the finishing touches on the Blazers. 111-87. Maxey sends up a flare. Rebound tipped into the hands of George. He'll reload with a fresh 14 and drills a 3.
A really close friendship, played several seasons together in Toronto.
Here's Paul George. Oh, Paul George, there you go. We talked about the three-point line.
You know, season high for this year, 8 steals in that game.
Meanwhile, Paul George, six-time All-Star, former teammate with DeMar DeRozan in Toronto. There's Maxey, out of control, finds Paul George, corner 3.
Coming off. He's got a pretty decent defensive resume as well. I'm thinking the average fan probably leaves that out.
You're looking at a future Hall of Famer right there, Paul George.
Draymond Green in the corner, no. And Maxey wants to push it. Paul George, a couple of early fouls. Pull-up 3 is good.
Good young core pieces. Do they want to give those guys away for this year when they could have a longer runway if they were to keep those guys?
103-78, Warriors by 25. As Yabusele finds George. George for 3, got it.
Nets 4 for 4. Russell made 3 and 2 assists. Williams 2 threes as George finally for Brooklyn. Here's Maxey. Maxey, low bounce pass, out to George. He got it. Not a 3. Gives it up to George. George with 14 points, 6 assists. Step back 3 is good.
Splitting the free throws, making this a 3-point game. Paul George with some space, and Paul George connects. Just like that, a 1-point game, 46-45. Again, 2 teams trending in different directions. Sixers have won 7 of 10. George heaving and hitting, thought he was fouled. There's still plenty of time here. If the Sixers can get a couple more stops and some buckets too. Paul George for 3. 8 from 3, but both Tyrese and PG with buckets early in this 3rd quarter. So let's see if they can continue that. Paul George with his first triple tonight.
Heck of a penetration.
To PG. Step back, Paul George, count it!
Led to 10, 12 points for them.
With an offensive rebound. Paul George stroking another 3. 3rd.
Still in that 2-3 zone.
Oubre around and out from the corner. Ricky, good weak side rebound. Drops it back off to Kelly. Kick out. Paul George for 3.
Pelicans sure know what that's all about.
7 and 31 on the season right now. Last in the Western Conference. Paul George.
But that's not something he needs to do anyway.
He knows where the basket is. Paul George for 3 at the other end. Magic down to 8 available players. Paul George, 3-point shot, rattles it in. Billy can smell blood now. There he can. George going to work against Queen again. And he buries another 3.
He's in a rhythm right now.
That's 3.
Yep.
Orlando has Black on Maxey, Isaac on George. Now Queen has George on a switch. Paul George, 3-point shot is good. Anthony picks him up on a switch. Paul George, 3-point shot, got it again.
Nice. Never had that problem.
No patellar tendinopathy for you.
Nope.
Here's Paul George, hits a 3 and 1. Chance for a 4-point play after Sims split the trip from the free throw line.
Maxey. Getting it back from George. Little 2-man game. And George nails the 3. 12th assist for Hart, who has 10 points, 16 rebounds, and now 4 steals. George buries the 3.
Jokic and Westbrook all time. And they have actually posted triple doubles in games together this year. As Paul George, smooth as always.
Yeah, that was something Kenny Atkinson, the coach of the Cavaliers, talked about pregame, that the second unit is just all shooters. Paul George, the latest Sixer to connect from downtown. Gershon spinning, kicking. George thinking about it. PG from downtown, and the Sixers are within one.
And that little basket catch in the corner, and he knew that he wanted to step back and get behind that line.
PG answering right back for the Sixers. Paul George has 20, Tyrese has 23. PG from the corner, Giannis for Paul George.
Nick Nurse.
And they've got 3 days to claim your 5-piece nuggets. A chance we could have 8 or 12 though by the end of this one. Paul George from outside, and PG delivers.
Issue nagging him over the last week. He's back in the lineup tonight.
He was good the other night attacking the basket.
He did, downhill. Now outside, Paul George has 7. Philadelphia's 11.
Maxi's got 6. Paul George, top of the key. Welcome back, Paul George.
Good swing of the basketball. The kick outside from Maxey.
Rainbow 3 is short from JB, but rebound right back to him. PG in rhythm. He's got another 2 3-pointers in the last couple of minutes for Paul George. To PG it comes. Rising and hitting a 3. Needed that, and Paul George delivers. He's got 9.
Great action coming up this weekend. Embiid one-on-one against Stewart. Now the double comes. They had the defense in rotation, and Paul George cashes out with the 3.
Honestly, Tim Hardaway Jr. gave up a look, which I thought he's probably the better three-point shooter. Well, not probably. He is the better three-point shooter between he and Ron Holland. He would have had all right to take that 3.
Wilt got traded. Kareem got traded. When you think of
in his return to the NBA after a 5-year absence.
Oh, shot blocked by Maxey.
What a block.
Maxey with a beautiful defensive play. Paul George lines it up. And that's a 3.
He is looking good since the trade.
Well, you know that there's been a lot thrown at him from the playbook as to what is expected on both ends of the floor, so he's trying to absorb all that as Paul knocks a 3.
Sixers have missed their last 5 shots. Paul George sets his feet, fires, and connects. Needed that one badly, and PG cans it.
They want to get them in different actions, don't they? And Philly wants to try to set up on defense because they know the Celtics will move quickly the other way. This is George with the 3 and a very good sign heading into All-Star. 30-plus.
I think he's getting more joy out of these passes than scoring 30 points. Nice 3 there by Paul George.
Luke. Another player they've developed.
Got to give Brad Stevens a lot of credit, right?
And Missoula for developing him with them.
Sixers 3 turnovers, their last 4 trips down. Paul George catch and shoot, needed that one, and it rattles in for PG. So the Bulls back up 5 as we approach the 5-minute mark here in this first quarter. Paul George with a straight-on triple. All right, liking the start tonight from PG. He's got 7. And again, know the season has been difficult for all of us, but Adem Bona, one of the many bright spots. Paul George, it's the roll on the wing triple.
Hey, think about how hard he had to work to shake that defender.
He's never in a hurry as George hits a 3.
I got to get out of this basketball game. I'm not sure if he came down on somebody's foot.
And Tibbs goes to Achua as George drills a 3-pointer. Paul George drills another one. George heating up 4-4 in the 3rd.
Wow, that is a ridiculous. He's calling for the end one on the way up the floor. Now Oubre gets a steal.
With those long arms, 3-on-2, spot up 3. George drills it. And it's a 1-point game. Timeout Knicks. 1 of 7, and it was the 3 by Curry. The 2 teams, they combined 3 for 15 so far. George from deep. Maxey struggling, 2 of 11. Not really looking for a shot at all tonight. Paul George wide open. And the three rattles home for Paul George. Here's Maxey. Let's see if he attacks. He was able to get to the bucket at will the other night, just hanging out on the perimeter. George nails another one. Back-to-back threes for Paul George.
George flicks the wrist. Can't hit. Dalton comes out of there with it. George on the reload. Good.
Joe or PG, when we saw the Pacers in Indy Game 3 of the season, they were the healthy team then. And the tables have turned. Paul George from outside. Paul George catch and shoot from the corner. And that one bounces through finally. I mean, that was the one that pushed us to overtime in South Philly, so it would be not a good idea by anybody else, a good idea by him. Paul George, that was a good idea, rattles in the three.
So Kawhi Leonard was a Raptor, and then following year, Nick Nurse, Coach of the Year. Pretty cool. Paul George has had a nice offensive first quarter. Difference game clock and shot clock is 15 seconds. To fill it up, he has to put it up. Oh, my goodness, Paul George. Sipping from the fountain of youth. Final 2:40 of our second quarter. Maxey's open. Offensive rebound, Oubre. Yabusele. Oh, I didn't want it. Paul George has just moved past Jason Terry. Paul George. Oh, my word. By George. He's still got game.
Falls right to the lap of Oubre, who was surprised.
This would hurt. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that wasn't meant to be that way.
They didn't deserve that.